Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Educator Experience podcast. My name is Salli Carter, and today I'm joined by former educator and current author, Amy Pollack. She's been a teacher for over 4 decades, raised 3 children, and has 7 grandchildren. And for someone like me who has 2 dogs, that sounds like a pretty big family. She's the author of the Coming of Age series, The Adventures of Jelly Bean, and now followed by The Further Adventures of Jelly Bean. And I think it's really sweet that her books have been compared to the likes of Judy Blume, who I happen to grow up with. Does anyone remember Super Fudge or Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret? Great books for, as I said, coming of age series. So, what an incredible opportunity to chat with Amy today. In this episode, we look back at impactful moments throughout her teaching career, like being a teacher of all different age groups from special ed in elementary all the way up to teaching writing in university, and which she preferred as an educator. But another thing is how her main characters throughout her Jelly Bean books, how they really originated when she was a kid in elementary school, up in the front of the class telling stories. So, how they actually grew throughout her adulthood into where now she is an author. I also was really curious to know about the type of PR schedule authors have. Like, what is the percentage of time that people are able to spend writing versus PRing? So, we get into that a little bit too. So, really excited to share this episode with folks. Hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, let's get to it with author Amy Pollack. Being an educator is one heck of a lonely journey, but every step holds a story, an experience that shapes how we teach, learn, and grow. Welcome to the Educator Experience. I'm your host, Salli Carter, and together we'll explore the moments that define us as educators. Through authentic conversations and shared experiences, we're building a community that connects, reflects, and inspires, all while breaking down barriers in education, one story at a time. You are not alone. Let's grow together. But it is a special day. I am so
I know.
excited to be sharing this space with you today on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's
Mm.
Day.
Thank you, Sally.
I was reading that you have a few grandchildren. So tell me about your family.
So I have 3 children, and various forms of them appear in my books, different combinations, so to say. So I have 2 boys and a girl. From them, I have 7 grandchildren.
7.
Oh,
Do they all live
lucky.
close to you?
Well, I wish they lived a little bit closer, but they live on Long Island, in North Jersey, and outside of Philly.
I
So
was like,
each are, on the average, take an hour and a half or 2 hours to get to each. So I can't really complain. We
that's
see
not
them
too bad.
very frequently. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big, beautiful family. Amy, I know that you were a teacher for 40 years before, well, probably got into writing at the time. What was that like for you? What did you teach?
So I really, really did enjoy teaching 99% of the time. I've taught all different subjects, whatever they handed to me, whatever was available. I guess I just, learned something if I didn't know it beforehand. So I started out in fourth and fifth grades, and I taught science and English, and I learned a lot. And I've always learned a lot from my students. Then I went on to middle school, which is, anyone will tell you who teaches middle school, challenging. And I did special ed, and always interesting, never dull, I'll say that much about it. There I did many subjects. I remember when the person that hired me said, "So, you're okay with the physics for science?" Well, I had never taken physics, but I didn't want her to become aware of that, so
Oh
I
my
said, "Oh, I'm
gosh. We don't say no, do we, sometimes? We're like, okay, we'll figure it out.
no."
Teachers figure it out.
Yes, you kinda have to
They
fake it
just
till you
do.
make it. Then I
Yeah.
did high school. It was all different classes, some special ed, some not, mostly special ed, but I did English and primarily English there. And there were some interesting behaviors there, and I hope all those kids made out okay. But I did enjoy having them. I learned a lot from them. Then I went on to college, and that was really my favorite. And I taught writing there. and I taught all other subjects because I helped them all with whoever was assigned to me. And then I also worked in the tutoring center there. So I helped them with any presentations and papers and how to be successful in college. It was a mixed bag, but I liked the teaching writing the best.
It's awesome. You said you preferred teaching college, so older students.
Oh, yeah.
What was the difference for you?
Well, in college, for the most part, as compared with the younger grades, they mostly want to be there.
Got it.
Mostly, for the most part. You have kind of a different attitude from different behaviors, trying to put this euphemistically, in the with the younger people who I really enjoyed as well, but this you could do more, and
Right.
you could go as far as they could let you. I didn't enjoy all the correcting because that took hours and hours if you wanna, do a decent job at that. I did, for the most part, enjoy the teaching college, and there's no parent involvement. Not that I really minded the parents because I had been one, so I get it. You just really want your child to be successful. That's the long and the short of it. Whatever complaints or things they were annoyed about, but I remember my supervisor saying to me when I first started teaching in college, and I was there for a number of years, "No, you don't take notes from parents. This is college. If they miss a time, they
Their
have to
problem.
go to guidance." Right, exactly. They miss 3 times, they fail. The long and the short of it, and you can tell them that. So I was like,
So
"Wow, this is
funny.
a whole brand new thing." Yeah.
The whole thing, yeah. I always tell my students, I'm like, "I don't care if you show up. I'm not marking you on that
Mhm,
on attendance, but you
mhm,
should care, right?
mhm.
But I'm not your mom. Not gonna hold
Yeah,
your hand for
wasting
attendance." All
wasting
of
their
that stuff.
money if you're
Yeah,
if you're out.
exactly. It's funny that you mentioned all the marking for writing in particular. I've taught some writing classes, and a couple of semesters ago, I really was gung ho on having it was a writing intensive class, and I wanted the students to really see the growth in their writing over
Mhm.
weekly chunks. So I made small writing assignments that I said I would provide feedback on each, and I wanted
Mm,
to die. I was like,
yeah,
"What
it's a lot.
planet was I on when I
I know.
decided to do weekly thing?" And I just in my brain, it made sense, and then I was
Yeah.
marking and you really wanna do provide, really good feedback and detailed
Yes.
feedback so that they understand how they
Yes.
can improve. Writing is a different ballgame. There is an opportunity for students to really improve if they choose to. Yeah,
Yes.
and I definitely shot myself in the foot with that one for sure. Got
Oh
over
gosh.
ambitious and a little burnt out.
Oh god, yeah. Because I
Yeah,
remember when I was first working there in the tutoring center, which I was doing in addition to teaching high school, and I remember and I get this. It's so hard being a teacher and finding time for everything and not getting paid always in accordance with how much you
with your
are
time.
doing.
Mhm.
But when I worked in the tutoring center and I would see that some teachers had marked on the students' writing awk, AWK, and meaning they thought it was awkward. But there was no explanation. And I get it. You run out of time. I'm very sympathetic to teachers, extremely. But I would say to the students when they would come to the tutoring center, "Do you know what this means?" No. So I knew if I wanted to go apply to become an English teacher there, that I would have to do more than just write awk because it's almost like a
It
waste of
really
time, waste of
is.
ink.
The feedback has to be valuable and it has to make sense to the students. I
Mhm.
I got tired actually in that same writing class. I was giving so much of my soul to
Right.
this feedback to see improvement.
Mhm.
And I realized that at some points, a lot of students were making the same mistakes, and so it
Mhm.
meant they weren't reading my feedback. So I actually
Right.
had a class. I forced the class, not forced, but I created a class where I invited them to actually read their feedback in the class because I was tired of it. I was like, you should not be making the same mistakes. So if
That's a
you
good
aren't reading
idea.
the feedback, yeah, I'm going to make this space for you to. And now I'm going to ask give you an assignment on how you're going to change based on your feedback. But it was frustrating because I was actually putting in a lot of time and effort. Obviously, students are busy too, but if there is a dedication to improve, you should be reading your feedback.
Mhm. Oh, that's a really good idea, and you learn so much from other teachers. I know I got some
Yeah.
good ideas from things that they did, and I thought, "Ah, I'm gonna" like, making them do evaluations of you, which you have to be
Yes.
really brave, and I got a lot of good ones, but some, critical that I was like would take me aback, like, "Ooh, god, I guess I am doing that." Something not so good.
You don't always know, right?
No.
Until that information is shared. Where I have been working at the different institutions, they do end of semester feedback reports, so students can
Oh.
anonymously submit. But we
Mhm.
always encourage educators to do mini feedback sessions throughout. So maybe do a halfway semester anonymous on your own to really understand, because
Right.
at the end of the semester, you can't always course correct, right? If you're doing
Mhm.
something that is
Right.
confusing or annoying to the students and you don't know about it, I actually heard this happened just recently. I'm creating a workshop that allows or invites educators to look back on their semester, what worked, what didn't. So a form of reflection
Mhm.
and then plan for the next upcoming academic year. But this was brought up in a conversation. One of the professors uses her evaluations and then shares with the students in the next class how she has changed, how she has
Oh,
listened to her evaluations and adjusted her style or her course, and then integrates it and lets students know how valuable the feedback is. Because a lot of students can kind of just say, oh, she's nice, or we don't like her
yeah.
clothing, and it's really poor feedback because they think it doesn't matter or it's a joke. But so she's trying to change that by showing them how much it matters to her and that the type of feedback that is beneficial to her and all the
Mhm.
adjustments that she makes. So I thought that was really neat. So I'm
Yeah.
incorporating that idea into the workshop too, how educators can actually use their feedback to their benefit.
I actually completely understand that, and in fact I did start doing it weekly with this one class after I had the suggestion, and as I said, I got okay, this is my favorite class, and I like when Mrs. Pollock does this and blah, blah, blah. Of course, I recognized all the handwriting, but that's beside
Right?
the
But
point. I
you
wouldn't
know it all. Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be nice or right to, make it influence their grade. But in any event, this one girl, and it was when I taught middle school, so it was either sixth, seventh, or eighth. But she wrote, and this affected me so much. Mrs. Pollock goes on and on and on. And I was like, no one enjoys hearing criticism. But I was like, I'm saying to myself, you know what? I do that after I got over how could she say. And
Shot to the
it
ego
really,
for sure.
yeah, totally. But it did make me change. And from that point on, I involved the students more. Like I would say, all right, I want you to talk about this, or you come up to the board and, you know, let them do more, even though, oh, everything I had to say that was so earth shattering and brilliant, I put to the side a little bit because I might have thought it was wonderful, but no one wants to hear someone drone on and on and on, including
Right.
me, even though I might have had the most brilliant things to say. And that really changed me. I
I
wanted
love
to
that.
tell her that, but
I
that was
love that.
very it was very valuable. So like you say, what, you put into effect, I was like, "Wow, let them do more of the talking." And then I started having teacher for the day and that kind of thing, which was good.
What is teacher for the day? I've never heard of this.
Okay, so it sort of started more when I taught science. They would have to present a lesson. They could have an older person come in with them, and they'd have to just okay it with me first. Couldn't be like blowing up the school. They would have to create a lesson and bring in any materials that everybody would need. And oh my God, they fought over having a chance to do this because they would have to get up there, see how hard it is,
Yeah.
and present this. And It was fun, and they learned a lot. You learn mostly, when you're doing. Oh, I have a scene about that in my Jelly Bean where that totally goes awry, which can happen, but they can see that too, where things don't go as you would
Yeah.
like or as you planned, and
It's
let
still
them get a
learning.
good
Yeah.
of course, and let them get a good taste of that. So that worked
You
out pretty
probably
well.
influenced a future generation of teachers by initiating that,
They
giving them an opportunity to try that out beforehand. That's so cool. So, how did your teaching influence your writing? How does that show up?
Oh, so much, because you know the poem where it says, "The child's the father of the man"? I think it's by Wordsworth, and it's so true. I just found that you just learn so much from your students. I found that, and it just helped me with well, especially in special ed, because you see how different kids and different students and different people learn, and, learn from the other teachers as well. It just gave me a lot of ideas for my books and how, oh my God, the whole thing with popularity and how that works. And oh my, as my friend once said, life revolves around what gets said at the lunch table. Because sometimes I would sit with the seniors at lunch when I had lunch duty and they asked me to, and oh boy, what goes on there. And
You have heard and seen some things, have you?
my goodness gracious, yeah, you really, really, really do. And that's important. I just learned
Yeah.
so much from them about behaviors. When people say to me, "Oh, how do you get your ideas for your books?" That is not the hard part. The hard part is sitting yourself down and doing it,
Right.
but ideas are just all over, especially in schools. Well, one of the good places to get a lot of ideas.
That's awesome. So, when was your first book?
Oh gosh. So, I was just looking that up. So, that came out in 2022.
Okay.
But I had begun it beginning when I was in 4th grade, and that's when I started telling my jelly bean stories. Honestly, this is so crazy. So, classmates of mine, I was in a private school at the time, so it was a fairly small-ish class. They remembered my jelly bean stories because my teacher would call me up to the front of the class when she had some downtime. I would tell these stories off the top of my head, and it's just something I'm pretty decent at. I ran into some of these classmates of mine. They had saved some things I had written, and I was like, "Oh my God, Betsy, really? You still have this?" Because I had made a play, I guess, out of my stories, and the kids had taken part. So it started there.
So cool.
And then I
Wow.
didn't really keep it up for quite a while because, I was in school and I was
Life.
working. And exactly. Got married, had children, had grandchildren, was teaching, and as you know, quite time consuming. And I would pick it up from time to time, but nothing continuous. And then, of all things, and I bring this up when I have presentations, my mother in law, rest in peace, who was sort of from that generation, but in any event, more of a critical type of person, extremely helpful and extremely good hearted. But she would say, why are you wearing that? Why did you buy that? How come,
Right, right,
why
right.
did you do this with your kid, etcetera? But who complimented my children's stories, which was very meaningful because she didn't give compliments easily. And once when she said to me, and she's gone for a while, but in more recent years, "Whatever happened to your children's stories? They were so good." And I was like, "Wow, you must mean that if you're saying it." So then along came COVID, which, was pretty awful on, you know, most every level, except since we were forced to be home, I could either sit down and finish my books or go clean out my closets, which, who on earth wants to feel like doing that?
Not one
So
of your
that
top skills.
oh God, our, desires. So
Yeah,
that's when I sat down and finished them and sent them around, and they got accepted. And at
that's
first
so
I
cool.
thought, wow, is this one of my friends pranking me? Like, and then I remember talking to my daughter. She goes, "No, mom, that sounds pretty real. Like, call them." Okay. And that's how that happened.
That's amazing. And so you just had a new book release too, right?
Yes, and
How's
I'm in
that
the middle of
going for you?
writing my book 4. Oh, very
So
good. Everyone does seem to like it.
let's
I'll
take
show
a
you
look.
my
Yes.
and I have to think of some more creative titles. This is The Still Further Adventures of Jelly Bean by me.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, here's my first and my grandchildren would be like, "Grandma, think of, like, a better title." I
The
have
still adventures, the further adventures, the more
The Still
adventures.
Fur No, they said, "What about, like, the Chronicles of" and I said, I get some really good ideas from them.
Yes,
So
I bet you do. These are awesome. So I'm curious for you because there are a lot of listeners who are interested in writing or publishing. So what does
mm,
your life look like once you release a book? What does promotion look like and things like that?
my goodness. Well, and I've helped a lot of people with this because this was completely new to me. I had no idea. You do have such as this interview, you do have to do a lot of promotion. And it's time consuming because I talk about conflicts a lot. So sometimes I'm conflicted. I want to come and sit down and finish writing my book 4, but you have to do this or you're not going to be known. And like I just went to the Morris County Authors Day and you have to show up at things. And I had a whole jar of jelly beans and I have a jelly bean counting contest and that gets people over. It's kind of fun. And they're all excited, the people that won and they
So
won signed
cute.
copies of my book. So that's one thing. But when people wanna know about promotion, I do like the PR person that I work with who does get me these interviews, and he's very good. I mean, of course, you have to pay, but the publishers don't do a lot for you. I think unless you're, Dan Brown or Michael Connolly or someone very known.
So what would you say is the ratio of you're currently in a writing stage right now. How much time do you spend writing versus promoting your prior book versus writing your new book? What would you say that
Mm.
is right now?
So I would say I wanna say 50-50 of my
Got it.
time, which I have, as they say, my so-called life also. So sometimes it's a struggle because I'll be
Yeah.
out and I need to write something down. And you just have to kind of scribble and come back and then put it on your laptop. So as I said, I am in the middle of writing my book 4. And this is kind of interesting because I did go to talk to you know who Judy Blume is?
Course, I do. I grew up with
So,
her, yes.
alright. See, my generation kinda missed her because 'cause I'm 73,
Uh,
but since my books were compared to hers, I did wanna go and meet her, which I did, and it was very cool. It was very surreal, and I asked her that question about publishers and if she had any guidance for me, how to promote, and she said she's just away from that for now, and I get it. I really understand because it's something you do need to do. I have my information on my car well, AM Pollack, AMPOLLACK.com, and if anyone wants to contact me, through my website, I'm happy to share any advice or anything I've learned from this whole PR process.
that's really interesting because I think and I'm making a generalization, I don't have anything to back this up, but I sense that a lot of writers are introverts and they're
Right.
they're getting their creative side out, and then they are being forced to then have be active in the promotion process. Forced may be a little bit of a harsh word, but it's part of the process.
No. You're
And I
so
can
right,
imagine
you're
it's
so right.
daunting and scary and
Very.
exhausting. Yeah.
Because yes, for example, I went to this convention, okay, it was for librarians, and it was in Atlantic City, which is kind of fun, it has its little dicey areas, but it was at a hotel. And, you really have to, greet the people like, the librarians will come by in this author and illustrators alley, and if they have the money from their district, and if they're interested in your books, they'll stop and talk to you and inquire, maybe buy some, take your cards. But like you're saying, the person next to me, and he was very, very nice guy and talented. And this was the first time I had gone, and we were next to each other just by chance. Our tables were put there. He happened to be from my town, which is kind of funny, but or maybe they did on purpose. I'm not sure. But in any event, I said to him, I've never done this before. He said, Oh, I went last year. And I said, How was it? And he said, Terrible. And I said, What? Why are you saying that? And he said, Well, nobody talked to me. Well,
Oh,
no, you have to make it happen. I
yeah.
said, "Listen, I was a little bit younger, but shy, like you're saying. If you're gonna bother paying the money and going to these conventions, you have to just greet people as they go by, and like you say, you have to force yourself, which is extremely hard for some people."
Right. Yeah, you become a
So I tried to help him.
salesperson for your books, which is necessary, but I'm sure scary for some as well.
Yes, and I do, and he especially made me understand that. So I tried to help him and guide him and call people over. And he was actually a very talented artist because they had
Mm,
illustrators but if you're going to go and not talk to that's a waste of
it
time
doesn't work. Yeah, that's
and money.
amazing.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, going back to your teaching career, is there anything that really stands out that was a pivotal moment for you?
Oh, aside from that girl telling me I went on and on. Oh, okay. Because that was clearly a pivotal moment,
Yeah.
and also just having to push yourself. I was never good in math or science, and I had to teach math
Mm,
and science, so I had to learn it, and it just makes you see that you can do whatever you put your mind to. Like, you really can. Even well, this was a good moment, my non-college bound juniors. So, college wasn't for them, and I took them all everyone the other teachers thought I was pretty crazy, it probably was. Took them to my husband's office, he was a lawyer. There are a lot of jobs that they could do, such as audiovisual, security, editing, might have been a little beyond them, various support staff jobs, and they loved going there and seeing all this, and I had also shown them other jobs because when I came there for this particular class, these 11th graders, I'd say, "Oh, where was the curriculum?" "Oh, we don't know. I don't know if we have one." I'm like, "Oh my god." So I had to go yeah, this was clearly a pivotal moment. Aside from finding out at that school they didn't have air conditioning, but with these kids, I incorporated some easier versions of Shakespeare and classics, and we had a lot of fun with that. It was because it's very timeless and relevant to today, how someone can trick someone and, think
right.
Iago and Lady Macbeth, and what would you do for someone? Would you steal? Would you lie? Would you kill? And we talked about that. But I also wanted to incorporate job the job search. So we did both of that, and I made up the curriculum, and it was interesting, to say the least, and I would just pray that everybody would behave the days I was getting observed. So I had to bring in a lot of candy,
Yes, yes.
and I hope those kids made out okay, but they had said the day we went to my husband's office, a lot of them said it was the best day of their lives, so they didn't have a lot of opportunities, these particular kids.
Yeah, you helped them see a future for themselves in really great roles that were impactful. Yeah, that they could do and align with. That's so
Right.
exciting.
I hope they
Interesting.
pursued something
Yeah,
something valuable and meaningful and to their liking, but I don't know.
that's so sweet. Have any of your writers, the people that you've worked with, have they done any published works? Do you keep in contact
Oh,
with any writers as students?
as students, have they done any
From
right
students, yeah.
Hmm, not as I'm aware of, but maybe, and I'm just not aware of it.
Mhm.
I'd like to inquire of my old supervisor. I believe she's still there, so I could ask her,
That's so it's just
wondering.
interesting. I always wonder about that. What happened to
Yeah,
some of the really great writers that I've seen as students? I always wonder about it. Is there anyone
yeah.
like because you are a writer, have you ever noticed exceptional writing in your students? What made it exceptional?
Oh, ugh, that's a really tough one because a lot had so much trouble with writing that,
Mm.
and to get an A, you had to have elegant writing. Now, how do you describe that? How do you explain that to the students who are saying, "What? How come this is just a B? Why is this just a C?" So you have to kind of try to show examples, and they should be reading a lot, which I always did, and which is one thing that's going to help in your writing because you see how it's done, and that's so tricky. I had one student in one of my classes who was a pretty exceptional writer, and I don't know if she pursued it. Kind of hope so because she was good. I remember my brother saying that he had a teacher in college who failed the whole class, and I'm telling you, if I were brutally honest, I could have done that with certain classes, but I didn't have the heart to do that. So what do you do? It's a big problem. Do you lower your standards? I'm not a huge fan of that. I like to try to teach them individually if there's an issue or a problem or if they're just not getting something. And the best I could say is just increase your reading, which is particularly hard now, as you know, with tablets and what goes on there. So,
Okay, so you said this is interesting. So increase your reading to become a better writer.
yeah.
I love
Very
that.
definitely. 'Cause
That
and
makes
I do
sense.
that too. I love to notice I'll reread something if it's particularly good or just gets you, and then I try to look at how they did. I'm not copy, but, try
Yeah,
to
but
emulate,
take some
let's say.
ideas
Right.
for
So
sure.
that's the best thing I could think of for that in that regard.
I love that. So, Amy, as we start to wind down this Mother's Day conversation, what's
Mhm.
one suggestion or piece of advice you might have for a new writer coming into the field or someone wanting to become a new writer?
You have to follow your dream and go with your "To thine own self be true," write about what you're feeling, and then also, well, this is so important, all writing is rewriting, all good writing and I have to force myself to do that, and sometimes you'll write something, and the next day or the next week, you'll look at it and say, "Oh my god, this," ball it up and
Mhm.
start all over, and you have to be willing and able to do that for to yourself, which is really it's difficult. But I've kinda gotten myself into that pattern, like, I was rereading what I had written for my book 4, and I so know I need to change certain parts, and I'll just have to go back and do that, and that's one important suggestion, and if you're feeling blocked, because I was kind of from a family of my dad was a writer, and my brother is, and my sister is, and my mom was. My parents are long gone. But if you're stuck, as my dad would say, you just have to move your hand across the page. Even if you're writing it'll come. You can't just sit there
Interesting.
and give up, which is really hard.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Mother's Day to you, your big, beautiful family. I'm looking forward to supporting your book and all the future ones that
You're
come. I'm
welcome.
so excited for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sally. I appreciate it.
I
And you have a great
appreciate it.
day and safe travels.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Amy. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Educator Experience. We hope you're walking away feeling connected, inspired, and just a little bit more supported on your journey. Ready to go a little bit deeper? Join the Educator Experiences community and check out our courses and workshops specifically designed to support new educators as they navigate the ups, downs, and everything in between. You'll find it all at educatorexperiences.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a fellow educator and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Together, we're building a vibrant community rooted in support and connection. See y'all next Monday.